You could be. Why not? I thought you were supposed to be Freddy this time.
I will haunt your dreams.
You already do.
That's because I'm spooning you. Oh, sorry. Was that my outside voice on the stream?
Outside voice? Were you talking too loud?
No.
That's usually what the outside voice is. All right.
Yeah, the stream sucks, but
What do you mean?
it's dropping frames. It's not good.
Does it get disconnected?
I don't know. It'll reconnect if it does.
Let's check the chat.
That's where I'm reading the feedback from.
Oh, mine always gets disconnected.
It's 'cause I don't know.
Okay, cool. All right, well, you read the chat then.
Hi.
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 Recording locally?
Mm-hmm.
We're doing good.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking globally.
And Ellen doesn't like our mic flag, apparently.
What up?
I don't want to be a
Oh,
flag.
that is a lot of spam.
You don't see it if you're not logged in.
Oh.
Go on. What post is that on?
Hard
Oh,
work.
okay. Yeah, I know that one is. All right, ready? Are you
Yes.
gonna pay attention?
Yes.
Let's do this. You
Yes.
ready? Everybody on this side?
Yeah.
Check.
Check.
Yeah.
How you feeling, Ken?
Hi.
Not the best.
Okay.
Hey everybody, welcome to PC Perspective. It is day 3 from the Consumer Electronics Show 2014. $5.99.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Blu-ray technology.
So
Alright.
it's early if you're watching us record this live, which you can do at pcper.com/live, and you can find a schedule on the right-hand side of the website that is sometimes accurate and sometimes less accurate, depending on, especially during the week of CES. As I slide this down to there.
Slide it down.
Right there on the calendar. So we are now through our 3rd day of the show.
4th.
No, well, I don't count Saturday as our day of the show. We
I
didn't
do.
a
That was day
podcast
0.
I do now.
Yesterday was day 2 of the podcast. This is day 3 of the podcast.
Yes.
We had the same discussion at the beginning of yesterday's podcast.
Well, then people will love it. So let's go through what we saw today and what was cool and maybe what wasn't. So we started the day off. I went to see Gigabyte by myself. Josh and I had a lovely walk
We did.
down the strip from the MGM to Caesar's Palace. It's a long way. And I got to meet with our good friend Colin Bricks, who is the namesake of the Gigabyte Bricks.
Ooh.
Which
Not
is
related to Hans Bricks.
not related to Hans Bricks at
Did
all.
you ask him?
No.
I guess not.
Then we don't know.
We don't know. So Gigabyte had a lot of motherboards. They had some video cards there. Actually, I'll mention that they did have. They showed the WindForce versions of the R90 290X and GTX 780 Ti, which are very cool, literally and figuratively. They have 3 fans on them, and they are supposed to be available now-ish. All depends on R9 product availability, of course. And when I asked what the price was of the 290X, they said same as MSRP, or $20 more. Which, if that's the case, then that's freaking awesome. If you can actually find one of those.
Coming soon to a mining computer near you.
Yeah, exactly. So we saw those. Those were cool. We went and...
Oh, wait. You forgot the super important announcement from Micron Crucial.
No, actually, I didn't.
Yeah, because they just had some DDR4.
I'm still at Gigabyte.
I thought this happened before yours.
Not according to my calendar.
No.
Doesn't really matter. What happened at Micron?
Yeah, pretty much nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, they had nothing. They had DDR4 that they showed us last year.
They had DDR4 memory. Well, we're another year closer to DDR4's integration. What speed? Were they running it in a system? Were they bare modules?
They had a little test system with one plugged in, but weren't showing me anything on it. And then they just had like 4 bare, different size modules, like SODIMM kind of style. And
Okay.
so, they're basically now, instead of just having one, they had different grade parts, sort of. They had like the sort of OEM-ish, kind of part. They had like the power user kind of part.
Yeah.
And they had the enterprise kind of part, which had like, some insane amount of capacity on it. It's a pretty big module. And then they had like a SODIMM, and that was it. No storage.
You should hold on to that microphone. That's
RAM
important.
is like storage.
You should stop moving
but
around.
volatile.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to use those as an SSD kind of you know.
DDR4 will not be on any AMD systems this year. It may be on an Intel system at the end of this year.
Yeah.
So we'll.
That
see
was
more
the
then.
that was
It's
the
not
gist I got from
Yeah.
them as well.
So also at Gigabyte in the bricks department. See what I did there? It's so they showed the Bricks Pro, which is a cool Nook-ish like device. It's taller. It's a little bit. I think the profile of it is smaller, like the dimensions of it. Whatever it is, it's taller though, and it's neat because it has the HD 5200 graphics. It's got a 4770R, I think is what is in there, which has Iris Pro graphics. And this was also their machine that they showed at the Valve press event as their Steam machine. So they have an official Steam machine that's powered strictly by Intel graphics. Intel's kind of been trumpeting the Bricks devices as kind of like their flagship.
If only they had a small PC brand that could sell Iris Pro under.
Yeah, but they don't have one on Nook with that on there. So yeah, it's kind of weird. So they're actually really neat devices. They also showed one off that had notebook style discrete graphics. So you could get I think it was a Radeon R9 275M, which I don't know exactly what that is yet, but it's a thing. And then I think it had like NVIDIA 8 series GPUs, which is in the mobile set. I'm assuming it's going to be a rebrand or a slight modification of the Kepler parts that we already have. So that was interesting. And they had the Bricks projector, which we have one of those at the office we'll be testing out. And I thought the best part about these devices, and Alan, you had a teardown of them, but they will hold both an MSATA SSD and a 2.5-inch hard drive.
Yep.
So you can actually get one of these tiny form factor PCs that has an SSD for speed and then
1 terabyte.
and a 1 terabyte hard drive, which is cool, right? Like that's for a lot of people, that's your whole PC.
Yeah, that's pretty much home PC stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So they had that, and that was neat. Good job, Gigabyte. Oh, they also are announcing a new brand. What was it called? Aura? A-O-R-A... A-U-R... Aura.
Aurora.
It's Aura.
Oh.
They have a keyboard, mouse, headset collection, but then the most important thing I think I saw was they had a 17-inch gaming notebook. They kind of looked like it was going after like the Razer notebook style. Very kind of cool looking design. It had GTX 765, 2 of them in SLI, 2 MSATA ports, 1 standard 2.5-inch hard drive, and it's some pretty decent connectivity on it as well. USB 3, no Thunderbolt, I don't think. It's obviously Intel based. Had a glass trackpad, and the glass was very shiny.
Ooh, shiny.
Very shiny. And that'll be out in like late January, mid to late January. It's going to be sold at Newegg exclusively first, and I don't remember the price on it, but it was probably $1,500 or something like that. So it was pretty neat. 1080p screen, so nothing revolutionary in that regard, though. We mentioned Micron already, thanks to Alan. Then we went to go see NVIDIA. Most of the NVIDIA stuff we already discussed, except for one cool item.
What?
It was an Asus PQ321Q 4K monitor that they modified to include a G-Sync module on. So it's a 60 hertz 4K panel, the one we used that we have in our office for testing. It's a great display to use, and they were able to integrate G-Sync technology on it. So they had their standard pendulum demo being in use there to demonstrate it. And what's interesting about the idea of putting it on a 4K monitor, even though it's not like something they're going to sell, or they're not going to make a kit for it before anybody gets excited. It was just like, here's a proof of concept. You can do this. We just need to give the display vendors more time to do it. Is that when you're gaming at 4K resolutions, you are more likely to be below 60, below 50, below 40, right? Because of the resolution that you're running at. So G-Sync is more useful at at higher resolutions and lower frame rates than it is at lower resolutions and higher frame rates.
Yeah.
So seeing on a 4K monitor, because they had it next to a different 4K monitor that wasn't modified, and it actually, I think, was a more substantial difference than anything I'd seen on the 1080p screen by far, and I think more so than on the 25 by 14 panels from Asus. You saw it. What did you think?
It looked really nice,
Yeah.
and it's for being a TN panel.
No, that's an IPS panel. That's the PQ321. That's the $3,500 model.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks really nice.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Yeah.
It's when you get into the lower frame rates, like the vertical tearing becomes much more apparent because those tears are on the screen for longer periods of time. It was really neat. Otherwise, we kind of talked about their G-Sync strategy, and I guess this is the time we'll talk about the discussion I had with AMD about FreeSync. Or it's not before anybody gets excited, there are people on Twitter just like blowing up about the idea. It's not a brand name or anything like that. That's just like their kind of internal mocking of NVIDIA branding for it.
They're gonna have to brand it as that now.
I don't think
It's got
they
too
will.
much traction.
Here's the thing, right? So I talked with NVIDIA and then I talked with AMD, and I haven't written this up on a news story yet. So if you're watching this live stream, you are the first person to get this information. The demonstration that AMD did to show what they're calling FreeSync or whatever you want to dub it was using notebooks, 2 notebooks, right, side by side, one with it enabled and one with it disabled. And the one with it enabled had a dynamic refresh, a variable refresh rate, and no tearing, right? So it was kind of, they were emulating what G-Sync does. And the way it can do that is that the embedded DisplayPort protocol, EDP 1.0, has in it the as part of the specification the ability for variable refresh, and it does this. It was originally put in there. Embedded DP is not something that's on the desktop. It's for notebooks and smaller, like tablets, but it's in there for power savings, so that if you're only generating 20 frames a second in any kind of scenario, whether it be a UI interface on a tablet or in a game, let's only refresh the screen that way because we're going to save power, and that's important there, right? So they were able to take, I think they were, did they say Kabini laptops? I think there were 2 Kabini laptops
Yeah,
that
they were
bought
like
off the
2
shelf.
$399 laptops.
Yeah, they're Toshibas. And knowing that was there, they were able to modify their driver so that it would send out the refresh cycles along with the game render cycles. Right?
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool that they were able to do that. The issue is that the controller in that particular display is one of not very many displays, I guess, that actually implement support for that feature, that capability. So even though it's in the EDP specification, they're not required. Like, it's like one of those optional specifications.
Yeah.
So it's not required. So some displays will have it, some will not. And now we're talking about notebooks, right? And I would think it's fair to say the majority of notebooks don't have that today. Now, when we look at the desktop side, which is where G-Sync targets, there are no EDP desktop displays. All right, but as it turns out, and AMD was informing me, DisplayPort 1.3 supports the same variable refresh timing. Okay, but again, the controller has to be built to support it. So the DisplayPort 1.3 hasn't been ratified yet. It was supposed to happen this quarter, and then we don't know how long it will be till we see displays. What would you honestly think will be the time you see from like that? They were obviously, Andy was very bullish about, oh, you're going to see them really soon. But we've seen DisplayPort standards not really roll out quickly, right? MST, for example.
Yeah, and if you look at how many monitors out there have native DisplayPort inputs anyway, and how long has DisplayPort been around? It's been since, what, the HD 3800 series, or was it the no, it was the first DisplayPort I saw was on the 5800 series.
Okay.
When that was released. And that was how many years ago? 2008, 2009?
It's like 100 years ago.
Yeah, yeah, and so we have not seen diddly in adoption of DisplayPort. Maybe they just think, hey, you know what, there's no real need for DisplayPort for, you know, a panel of this size and, and quality. What's the point in having a, you know, a little bit more expensive port and scaler and cable that we have to use?
Right.
Just use crappy old DVI.
So it's an interesting like little debate to have now, because when we talked with NVIDIA, they say, well, of course, AMD is going to say that because they don't have the technology available. They didn't build the technology.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, the stigma or the stereotype they put on this, like, well, AMD always wants somebody else to develop their stuff, and then they'll join on. Whereas AMD takes the stance of, look, this is already an existing standard. It will be coming out soon. And AMD was, what would I say, complimentary to NVIDIA for recognizing it as a potential feature for gaming, and then implementing it and promoting it.
Yeah.
And that's good, right? NVIDIA is good at those things, right? Taking something and pushing it out on the market. So it's done two things. AMD claims that the reason they gave the demo was not to crap all over the competition. Sure.
Yeah.
That's what they claim. They claim the reason they did the demo was to push the display vendors to integrate DisplayPort 1.3 faster. And when they do integrate DisplayPort 1.3 faster, to make sure they include the capability for variable refresh.
Yeah.
And if you do that, all it is a driver change for AMD and NVIDIA at that point, right? So I hope that's the case, right? If March brings, it won't. If, let's say, May brings DisplayPort 1.3 monitors, and they have the multi or variable refresh rate stuff, then G-Sync becomes kind of irrelevant unless they add other things to it, or maybe they can make the technology a little bit better because they're hand coding and tweaking certain things that the DP standard can't change because it's a standard and it's been ratified. It will make things much more interesting. My worry is that we will continue to hear about DP 1.3 from AMD until November of 2014, right? Just like we did with DisplayPort MST, where, don't worry, you can do 6 displays just by an MST hub. And it was always like, well, those don't exist ever for 2 years. And that AMD will lose ground because of that, right? I believe it is a combination of trying to push the display vendors to get stuff out sooner, because that will benefit AMD. But it also benefits AMD if they say, hey, don't buy a G-Sync monitor and get trapped into this proprietary system. If you just wait, there will be one that supports it soon. And you could buy an AMD card, right? So they'll be able to do both of those, I guess. So that was my discussion. That's what I'm going to write up. You got a sneak preview of the story, and that's pretty much the whole story.
How high of DisplayPort revision does NVIDIA card support currently?
Well, DisplayPort 1.3 isn't out yet.
But say it comes out, then what happens?
Well, no card today will support... Well...
Is it driver?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You would be able to do that. Because they did, like I said, they did it today with their driver in their mobile setup. Right?
So in theory, this comes out and then NVIDIA... Say the push ends up being all towards just DisplayPort 1.3 instead of G-Sync.
Yep. Then
NVIDIA could just basically, you know, sort of G-Sync-ish backfill all their stuff for the other displays.
They could, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's an interesting discussion to have.
Yeah.
So we'll I'm going to kind of take back AMD's feedback. I'm going to go back to NVIDIA and say, well, now what do you say? Now what's your stance? How can you know,
yeah, because we do not know the entirety of the 1.3 specs. We don't know if it will.
No one knows because it hasn't been ratified.
Well, yeah,
it's pretty close.
Yeah, it's pretty close. Within a month, it's going to be. But you know, who knows if they will allow asynchronous above, 60 hertz. Well, not asynchronous, I guess, or well, with the, variable above 60.
All right, ask something while I type out this email because I'm going to get clarification on that. What was the next meeting we went to after NVIDIA?
All winner.
All right.
They probably can't hear you, but we love you anyway. Anyway, we talked to All Winner. They're an SoC manufacturer from China. They've been in business since 2008. They actually have become one of the larger SoC producers in the world. We talked to one of their guys and told us about some of the current products and upcoming product. The big one is, of course, the A80X, or is it just A80?
A80 is 80X is like the series.
Yeah, and it's essentially a big little core, but they've gotten it so that these cores can all run together. So much like what Samsung does with the heterogeneous
the big little
compute. Yeah, with Big Little, where it's not just, hey, this block of cores is going to run, and then we need something higher power, so it turns off that block, turns on the other big block, and can do more performance. Well, we found out that that's not as effective as they wanted it to be, and so the software, not the software, but the hardware was always there that they can get them all kind of running together, and work dispatch to one group or the other, and it's just taken a couple years for the software to get. And so it's one thing that they're excited about. I
would say, I was just gonna say, but I found it interesting. It's Allwinner is a Chinese-based company that I had not heard of until sometime in 2013, and I'm guessing most people hadn't heard of them. They're like 15% of the market share of Android tablets, or of tablets, not just Android tablets, but tablets.
Yeah.
Because Apple was the dominant player, but then this company makes a lot of the low-cost ODM rebranded ones that sell at Kmart's and Walmart's in the U.S. and then all over emerging markets.
Yeah, and they picked up kind of a big brand in that HP is buying chips from them.
HP will be doing that.
They use graphics IP from both Imagination Power VR and ARM. Mali or Molly? I always want to say Mali.
Molly.
Like Bally.
Molly.
Anyway, Molly.
You mean like Bali?
Yeah. So their products are less expensive, and they said that the reason for that is they own a lot of their own IP for built-in stuff that they use in all their chips, and so they can do it less expensive than other guys who have to license a bunch of IP. They're aiming for the $200, $300 area with this product. It's got the Power VR at the top. Performance is very comparable to the Tegra 4 and Snapdragon 600 to 800 series, depending. And they also had a neat little development.
Yeah, they had like
there.
a board. It kind of looked like a little bit bigger of an Arduino, but it had the 8-core ARM part on there, and then it had Ethernet and USB 3 and USB 2 and HDMI.
Yeah, and I asked him about
SD card reader.
what I/O was looking like for that, and he said, well, we'll have to go into deep dive later, but they do have the ability to connect a lot of different stuff
Gotcha.
to these new chips, and they're tiny. That's the one thing that always kind of amazes me, is that these ARM chips with 8 stinking cores, and they can actually play games at a decent frame rate.
Yep.
And quality settings, and they're just absolutely tiny, and they pull 2 to 5 watts in tablets.
We actually saw it was a MediaTek 8-core processor in a phone at ARM's booth at PepCom yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, Josh has pictures.
Hey,
of
Josh
that
has
now
pictures
again.
of that now.
I do, and we can.
We had pictures of it, and then Josh lost his camera, but we've recovered it since. Did we update people?
I did over Twitter.
Oh, well, if because we joked about it last night on the podcast about you losing your camera, but somebody turned it in.
Yeah, some kind soul saw that laying around, took it to the hotel, and said, "This needs to go to your lost and found," because I found it. Someone obviously lost it.
Do you find it odd that they looked through the pictures to verify that it was your camera?
It's a little strange, but
It's just like
Did you have to pull it out of your pants to verify?
yeah,
it would be like if I left my phone or my laptop and they're like, "Was it yours?" And they're like, "Well, what are the recent browser sites you've been to?" I was like, "Well, I don't want to get into that."
If someone leaves a phone, like you could look through the address book and call like mom or dad, right? Those are usually your safe bets.
Which is why I always leave my phone unlocked, right? So people can do that.
So people will.
A lot of
call you.
people will leave their phone unlocked.
Yeah, a lot don't know. I don't know. Okay, so that was Allwinner. What else did we hit up? We went to Western Digital. We couldn't really talk about anything there.
No, we can't.
Yeah, there wasn't. So they were showing off their Black 2 or Black Squared, Black 2 drive.
What do they actually call it? Do they call it Black Squared?
No, I think they call it Black 2.
Yeah.
And then with everything else there, not really.
No.
We talked about one new product, but you guys will all hear about that pretty soon.
Yeah, there's stuff coming. That's
stuff coming.
Yeah.
So we met with them there, and then we went to OCZ, and they have a new product as well. They had it on display. It was the Vertex 460.
Vertex 460.
And what do we know about that based on the
big changes to Toshiba flash memory?
Okay,
go figure. Because
yeah,
we know
not
that.
a surprise.
I wouldn't be surprised if everything from OCZ shifted over to Toshiba flash memory.
Yeah.
You would hope.
Yeah, and well, that should make them cheaper
So
if you think about it, right?
it should. They're
you know,
not paying any markup on
Yeah.
the flash.
Yeah, no
in
markup on
theory.
the flash. It's sort of a reverse acquisition, right? It's like, yeah, you bought us, wink, wink. Now give us your flash memory.
Nice.
Yeah.
I don't. They didn't have anything else other than that. They had their existing product line out there.
Mhm.
I guess they did promo. They had like an early of the what was that open architecture
Open
PCIe
Compute. Open Compute, I think.
Open Compute. Is
Yeah.
that the Facebook based?
Yeah.
Okay. Like a PCI Express SSD that fits into that specific specification and form factor.
Yeah. Which is the original Z drive, basically, but just
Kind of
repackaged.
Repackaged.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, they didn't have a whole lot to say. Obviously, OCC has their own problems that they've had over the last several months. But they did kind of promise us that, hey, give us a month, and we'll start talking about some more exciting things.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're not going away. They were here, and that's good news in my book, right? They're there.
Yep.
After that, let's see. We'll finish up our stuff and we'll go back to what you talked about, Josh. We went to see Corsair at the Venetian. If you see the homepage of PCPro.com, you know what Corsair has announced. Like everything.
Yeah. No, everything.
They
yeah.
announce everything all
Yeah.
of the time. They release more stuff than any company I've ever seen. They had, what was it, the 760T?
670.
760.
760.
760T case is a part of their graphite series, and I thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
Like it's a full-size ATX case, but the side panel of it is completely acrylic. The entire thing, except for the handle part,
Yep.
is completely acrylic.
It
So
just looks like there isn't a side
yeah,
on
it kind of looks
all.
like there's no door on it. And like,
Yeah.
because at first I was like almost like wanted to reach through it until I realized that there was a handle.
Yeah, there's just a top
The
and
front.
bottom edge. That's all you get, and then the whole.
And it's on hinges, and it's
Yeah.
the hinges are at the rear of the case. So
it
both
swings
both
out.
sides doors kind of swing. You know, they don't swing towards the front; they swing towards the back of the case. It's pretty cool. The doors felt a little bit like wobbly when you opened them because they're just one sheet of acrylic. They're not heavy.
Yeah, but you're not going to leave them open.
You're not gonna leave them open, right? No. I mean, it's not the
Maybe
big
I
deal.
will.
But they also had a metal version of it. I forget what that was called.
640.
640T.
Yeah.
And it was the same exact design, except instead of the clear acrylic doors, you had metal doors with. Did they
Wasn't
have
that
fan
the-
openings on the side?
I thought that was the 730. What's the 730?
Sure. It's a 730.
730T.
Yeah.
So 760 and 730.
You're cheating. You have pictures.
And then they the 760T was in black and white. The white looks pretty cool. At the top of it, they have like a removable panel. Looked like it could hold 340 fans up
That's what it
top,
looked like.
or you can cover it and kind of make it sleeker looking and a little bit quieter as well. They showed the Corsair 250D, which is their mini ITX case. We actually got one of those in at the office. We weren't allowed to talk about it yet. So we'll be doing some coverage of that when we get back to the office. It's mini ITX, but it's bigger than I think a lot of mini ITX cases are. It'll fit full-size graphics cards. And what power supply did it? It fits full-size power supplies.
Yeah, ATX.
Full-size power supplies. And it'll also fit up to a 240 radiator, self-contained radiator cooler.
Yep.
So if you want a mini ITX system, and you also still want to use like the Corsair H100 or H105 that was also announced today, you can do that. Actually, maybe the H105 won't fit because it's thicker. It was a thicker.
A lot
radiator.
thicker.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh. What else did they have? They announced
a keyboard.
they had the RGB Cherry keyboard, and they actually had two representatives from Cherry there to talk about the kind of complication of designing a keyboard. They needed to design a switch that felt exactly the same. They had to integrate a way for the light to come out of the switch without changing the way the switch felt
So
in
is it
any fashion.
Is it like? So I'm guessing the LED is not that single package RGB LED style. It's actually 3 individual LEDs.
I don't know
is that.
that.
What you're saying?
I don't know that.
Because
No,
it's otherwise they shouldn't have had to redesign it. Because if it was just like a single, LED, but they might not make them that small. The single LED
Oh, okay.
that's RGB.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool idea to have. So every key on the keyboard can be adjusted independently.
Yep.
Now, and they had some like demo going where like when you type a letter, it like a wave of light goes away from it.
It's like a ripple.
Yeah, like a ripple effect.
Yeah.
So if you were typing, it would have a bunch of ripples that go away. You could have like rainbow effects, and they, you do whatever you want. You could
I kind of don't see anybody leaving that on for anything to just show it off.
No, but yeah, but like maybe you have the keys, like profile for a key, like when you're playing Battlefield 4, where it illuminates all the keys that you use.
Yeah,
You know,
those are
in
cool.
bright white, and everything else is dark and
Yep.
off. Right? That's a pretty cool idea. They didn't have pricing yet, and that worries me.
Yeah.
That they don't have pricing, because individual RGB lights for 104 key plus keyboard is going to be
Well, not only that, but
Pricey.
cherry keyboards in the first place are
right.
not
That's what I'm
cheap.
saying. Yeah, you
Yeah.
got to take the price of the cherry and then add that whole complication.
Under
to it.
$300.
I did say $300. They said the cherry guy said there's no difference between
In the
the
field,
RGB LED ones and the standard ones, and they're offering them in 3 different, like blue, red, brown.
Yeah.
Probably
is
yeah.
what it was.
Those are the popular ones.
So that's pretty cool. Not gonna be available until the middle of 2014, mid 2014, but it'll be not cheap. And then you went to go see Samsung.
Wow, was it
All
that bad?
right, yeah.
Yeah, I did.
So
Samsung.
who'd you talk to first? Talk to
I
foundry
talked
guys?
to
We don't need to
the,
get too much of that.
Yeah, I would talk to the Exynos guys.
Oh, okay.
They're really excited about this coming year. Even though they license IP from the actual cores from ARM, they say they do a lot of work on them themselves to, of course, anybody's gonna say this is like, yeah, we
Correct.
optimized.
They're
it
not going to
for-
just say we took it and just run.
we copied and pasted, and it might run better than the competition. No, they do work and make sure that they really push it towards their foundry and their technology. They're shipping 28 nanometer stuff right now. 20 nanometer in a couple of months, but what they're really pushing for is 14 nanometer FinFET by the end of this year, 2014, and
by the end of this year.
yeah, but
Wow.
whether or not how that's going to go, or whether they can do large scale production, it's that's what they're planning. But anyway, they've got the big little, they've got the heterogeneous core working. I can't remember the exact name they give it, but with the A7s and the A15 cores working
Yeah.
together rather than one group on, one group off. They say that they get very good performance, similar to just the A15s going all the time. But they're I was looking at, and one was drawing 1.4 amps with the heterogeneous, and the other was drawing 1.8 amps with just the A15. So you get a significant power savings by doing that, and the performance was pretty much identical with each product. They're really pushing GPU. They like the idea of utilizing more of the graphics
Right.
IP, and
Well,
especially
especially with phones, it's like an efficiency play, right?
it is, and also there is a lot more flexibility in it, because if you think, hey, we've got hard-coded accelerators for H.264, but H.265 is now out, or HVEC, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And we don't have, a hard-coded accelerator for that. So what we can do is use OpenCL and utilize the graphics processor to do that more efficiently than if you're just doing it by the CPU portion itself. So they're showing that off. They have a memory stacking technology that essentially gives them, he told me, 512-bit memory bus. And they run it much slower than like LDDR3,
Okay.
but they get more bandwidth and more power savings because this bus isn't running nearly as fast.
Sure.
But it's wide, but slow, kind of like me. And
As opposed to narrow and fast like me.
which is it's more like Ken.
Oh.
I'm not very fast.
Not at the moment. But anyway. So we talked about that, and then we went over. Just the last thing is they're using the new Mali T628 in some of their latest
Okay.
chips. That's the latest and greatest from ARM. Before, of course, they announced the 700
They
series.
announced the 700, but that's
but
a little
those
bit-
are going to be
Yeah.
they're at least a year away.
Yeah.
And so these are the the latest hotness in graphics, and a big step up from the Mali T400 series. that were just very, very common, but didn't perform all that well. Feature set was kind of sucky.
Fair enough.
And sure enough, they got that. And then I talked to the foundry guy, and that's where I got the information about 14 nanometer FinFET. 14 nanometer just requires FinFET. I mean, they can't do 14 nanometer planar type transistors. It just doesn't work well. You get no scaling in performance and power consumption. In fact, it probably might even get a little bit worse because of density reasons. So anyway, they've got it FinFET. They said that they've added technology to provide additional area scaling improvements as compared to other 14 nanometer processes, or like TSMC's kind of hybrid 16 nanometer that they've been talking about. They're doing a couple other things in the foundry work. They're trying to get more customers there because, just like Intel, Samsung can't always fill up their fabs. And I mean, they've had a relationship with Apple in the past. They didn't want to talk about what's going on with them now for obvious reasons. But they're reaching out to a lot more folks. They're doing regional design centers. So they got some guys in Germany working with the Germans, and
Oh no.
yes,
That
the
sounds like
Germans.
that's a bad mix. Germans
Yeah,
working with
and
the Germans.
Koreans. No, but
Z Germans.
Z Germans. But they're trying to facilitate better communication, better design strategies by having local people work with those local companies and not have to say, hey, I'm going to call Seoul, Korea, and try to find some engineer there to help me through this design aspect that we're having issues with. They're also doing things where they're licensing IP blocks out so their customers can get products out very, very quickly without having to reinvent the wheel. And the last thing they really mentioned to me is that yes, Samsung makes a lot of their own chips, and their foundry guys are very, very isolated. They're pure play foundry section, and so it's not like with TSMC where you have all these customers coming in, and AMD knows what NVIDIA is doing before even most people in NVIDIA know what's going on.
Right.
And they just want to say that they've got this huge firewall in their foundry business, and Samsung doesn't.
That's
go
true.
in and peek.
That's got to be. I mean, competition would be worried about that. Any potential competition. So
so they really want to stress. So it was an interesting hour conversation. I was late. They were really nice to me. They're like, yeah, it's CES. We understand.
Good.
We picked Win, and it's kind of way away from some other things as compared. So
good. That's good. I'm glad to hear that went well.
Yes.
Got some good stuff out of it.
Yes.
All right. Our last meeting of the day was at Coolermaster. Speaking of way away, that was at the Palms. And we met with our good buddy Rajiv, who talked to us about all their various stuff that they're working on. They had the Stacker series on display, some accessory kits for that. What was the name of that the squarer case? He said it several times, and now I'm totally blanking on it.
Coolermaster?
Yeah, and I don't think it had a placard in front of it.
The placard was off to the side of it.
Oh, okay. Did you find it?
Not that one. The one to the left of it.
The bigger one.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Half B? Half? Be happy.
I'm not sure I got
I don't know.
That one. Yeah, the big one.
But it doesn't have a placard,
a
on
placard,
it.
no.
It was still in early development. It was a big case. Rajiv's going to kill me, but think of it as a bigger version of what the Corsair A540 looks like. It's kind of a similar compartmentalization or shape to it. Corsair or Coolermaster rather has done some cool things like the front. The side panel is like all acrylic all the way around. It even kind of like wraps around to the front a little bit, which looks really neat. That's a little bit bigger. There's more space along the on the back and the sides for cable routing, more component inclusion there, full-size power supplies, that kind of thing. It looks like it'd be pretty interesting design. And then next to it, they had a mini ITX small form factor design. What was that one called?
Scout 150, I think.
Scout 150.
Coming up.
Yep.
Elite 110.
Elite 110.
Close. The Elite 110.
Way
Yes.
All right. So the Elite 110 is a mini ITX case, much smaller than what the Corsair 250D is. It doesn't fit. It won't fit all the graphics cards, but it'll fit. I forget what he said, like 225 millimeter,
Yeah.
something like that. I don't know what that means in real numbers, but it's a good size graphics card slot. It fits full size ATX power supplies by having the power supply kind of stick out the back a little bit with a mounting bracket. I don't know what case was that had that, like the Cosmos 2 or something.
Yeah, the Cosmos
Had like an
did
external
that.
bracket,
Yeah.
which I don't know why that one needed it, but this kind of, maybe 2 inches or something like that sticks out the back of the case so that you have room for a full size power supply in there. Obviously, you don't want to put something like Corsair's AX1500i in there that is like super long, but a 500 watt unit will be typically pretty easy there. And what else? Let me see that picture of that case again, because it had it was small, and it still had room for a 120 water cooler, I believe, in there. Is that right? Is that what I'm looking at? There's a 120 millimeter cooler. I think it's facing.
That's hard to tell from this
Yeah,
picture,
it's on the side facing the front of the case, I think. So if you only got that angle, then I don't think it'll show up.
Yeah.
Which, some of the mini ITX cases we've been looking at recently, like the Silverstone, RVZ1, RVZ01, and what was the one before that we looked at?
The
EVGA Hadron Air, as the name would imply, does not really support air liquid cooling in any kind of fashion. So that's a pretty neat design. They also had a bunch of new keyboards and accessories. They had a keyboard. They had one based on the
Electrostatic
capacitive switch design that we saw on the Topre keyboards. And so they have a keyboard coming out with that. Felt really nice. It's got RGB backlighting on it.
You could use cherry keycaps on it, which was cool.
Yeah, so it had apparently, I didn't realize it when I took apart some of the keys off the Topre that I had, the one that we got from Seasonic, is that it didn't. You can replace the keycaps on cherry from any switch to any switch, right? So if you want to buy different keycaps, you can do that. But couldn't do that with those Topre keyboards. With this one, they're letting you. It's designed so that you can replace the keycaps with standard cherry keycaps if you want, while still getting the Topre actual switching design on there. They had a different keyboard that had what was the lighting thing it was doing? Permanence. It was like when you pressed a key, that individual key lit up and it kind of slowly faded away. It was an interesting effect, like as you type, it kind of that's apparently a thing this year, is cool lighting effects while you're typing on your keyboard. But that was neat. What else did they show? Oh, they had a did you get a picture of that giant water cooler in the middle? It was a 11140.
I don't know.
Maybe it was a 11120. Yeah, one of the.
I think it was a 360.
I think it's on the left there. Is that what that is? It's a 360. It's a 360 radiator, so 11120, and the water block on it was beefy as well.
I think it was on this board they had on display.
Might have been
the same one.
Might have been. And they did something kind of interesting with it. They the tubing on it from the block to the radiator is longer in order to facilitate use of their Stacker series cases, right? So if you have your motherboard down there and your water block, and you want to put the radiator for that water cooler actually up in the top component, you can do that due to the extra length they put there. So it's an interesting like collection of stuff they put together. One of the things I was really impressed with talking with them is that they want to know about what people think about their products. They want a lot of feedback, because they are trying to improve their products, but they don't just want to do it arbitrarily. They're looking for like direct end user consumer results. What do you think about this? Like they wanted us to show, and we will talk about that giant cube case whose name I can't remember right now. Say, what do you like about it? What do you not like about it? What do you think we should change? What do you think we should add? And they're willing to kind of crowdsource that without crowdfunding it.
Yeah.
They had a keyboard with the letters were front lit.
Yeah,
That
it
was
was
kinda cool.
really confusing to me, because I was looking at it from straight above, and it just made the letters. So instead of, if you've got your keycap, the letters usually on the top of it.
Yeah.
they had it on the front face of it, which is cool. Like if you're typing in it like at a normal distance, when you look at it from above, it just looks like they misprinted it and all the letters are very tiny. So that was what we saw at Coolermaster. We'll have we've got the Stacker series at our office too. We'll be doing some work on that when we get back as well. I think that was it. Did anything else stand out from you today? You found your camera.
I did find the camera. It was amazing. Thanks for whoever turned that in.
I'm sure you're
Appreciate
watching
it.
the show. Millions tuned in for this.
Yes, as they should.
No. Taxi lines suck.
Yeah.
But other than that,
Well, the forum wasn't, Caesar's wasn't too bad. It went pretty quickly.
yeah,
and you cut
waited
in.
I cut in line, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Other than that, CES is good. We've got one more full day here on the ground tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to be visiting with
Lots of people.
we've got Plexter, Kingston, Qualcomm, ARM, Synaptics, Intel, SSD Group, Intel NUC Group, EVGA, Antec, Thecus, Power Color, Seasonic, A-Data.
Yep.
Jeez, oh Pete's. Good lord.
Divide and conquer.
And then it's over.
Then it's
No,
done.
it's not.
Well,
And then
For
you
us.
guys get to go
it's
see
over
Ka.
for us.
So that's our day tomorrow. We'll start out early. Josh and I will be hitting up Qualcomm and ARM and Synaptics and Intel in a row. Alan will be hitting up Plexter, Kingston, Intel, SSD. We got Thecus on there. EVGA's got some stuff. Antec's got some stuff. Some stuff. So yeah, it'll be another full packed day. If you want to follow it, obviously pcpro.com/CES is the URL where you get all of our news.
Yeah, and apparently tomorrow in the CES LVCC parking lot, Tom Peterson and Raja
Kadori.
will be having a knife fight over VSync, triple buffering, and G-Sync.
Sweet.
So it was a funny. I don't know if I should recount this on the podcast, but I'm going to anyway. So at PepCom last night, NVIDIA was there. They were demoing G-Sync to people that walked by. People hadn't seen it before. It was really cool. And Raja Kadori, who works at AMD, is one of the
CTOs,
top
yeah.
technical guys there, right? But Tom had not seen him in person, knew who he was, but had not met him. And so Raja kind of walked up to the G-Sync area, and Tom apparently gave him an entire demonstration of G-Sync, right?
Oops.
Talked about it, and then Raja was like engaged and asking questions, and it wasn't until after the fact that somebody told Tom who that was, and he was like, damn it, that kind of thing. It's obviously he wasn't giving away super secret information that he wouldn't have already told us, but it's just funny to see the friendly competition at work. The friendly competition at work.
So
yeah,
friendly.
and then the best part of the AMD meeting was when we had a fan, I hope he's listening here today, came up in the middle of while I was talking with an AMD
Maybe
PR
not a
rep.
fan, but certainly a reader.
No, it was a fan.
He was a fan. He was
Okay.
Yeah, he said, "Hey, love the work you're doing." He went up, wanted to shake my hand. I said, "Hey, thanks." He said, "You guys do great work. I love the podcast and the work you're doing there." And he said, "By the way, I just wanted to say I think you're great for being completely unbiased."
Yep.
But he said it's so easy for one person to just be really biased against AMD or NVIDIA. But you do a really good job of staying in the middle. And he was part of the
Objective
overclocked
was the word. Objective. You're you're the most
And he said-
objective.
And he
group.
was like, and I followed that overclock.
The overclock.net thread where
yeah.
we went in, it was a frame rating type story back and forth, and he said you did a really good job of presenting your case and laying out all the facts, and I just thought it was great. And then all the AMD people asked if I paid him to come up and do that in front of
So
in
yeah, I
front of
met him a
AMD.
block later
Did you
and
give
paid him
give
the
the
$50.
20?
Yeah.
Oh, you gave him 50?
Well,
I
he
only
did a
told
good
him
job.
20. Yeah, he did. It
He
was
did,
a little bit too
yeah.
much. Yeah, okay. All right, guys, that's going to be it. PCPro.com/live. If you want to know, we're going to go live tomorrow because it will all vary depending on how our schedules. We're much earlier today than we were the last 2 days.
Which is nice.
It's nice. Yeah, when it all works out, sometimes it works out great. If you want to know when we're going to go live, you can either follow me on Twitter. I'm at Ryan Shroud. I will tweet that out for show. Or you can go to PCPro.com/subscribe. PCPro.com/subscribe. Give us your name and email address, and we send out an email right before we start recording the podcast
And that's
as
all
well.
we do use that for.
Yeah, that's all we do. I don't spam you for anything yet. Yeah, but
Yeah,
It's
nice
natural
still
male
young.
enhancement.
natural male enhancement. If you get one, that didn't come from me. It's this guy. It's this guy. So thank you guys very much for joining us. I know the video is not ideal here if you're watching live.
Mostly because
the
I
color
walked
tone
by it.
is a little bit off.
I walked
GoPro
by it
Hero
and,
3.
and it arced a spark about 3 feet.
It did. The GoPro camera that we were forced to use for this, like almost put Josh in a cardiac arrest. It was funny.
Couldn't get the job done.
pretty funny.
It's probably because it has 20 wires hanging off of it.
It
Yeah.
might have some connect,
Yeah.
and the wires are on the carpet. Don't do this at home. All right, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.
Good night. Yeah, maybe it doesn't
You just turn off the stream. Hold on.